Everything is Awesome is part of Core Temp Arts, a podcast network featuring pop culture, TV, movie, and geek podcasts. Check out some of our other shows, like TV Ate My Brain, Let's Chat with Revill and Friends, and Podstalgic at coretemparts.com.
Awesome.
Just tell people they're awesome and mean it.
Awesome.
Awesome. Awesome.
Did you have an awesome time? Did you drink awesome shooters and listen to awesome music and then just sit around and soak up each other's awesomeness?
Awesome. 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 That was awesome. You guys are awesome. No, you're awesome. No, you are awesome.
Sir, you are awesome. Seriously.
Awesome. Awesome. Awesome.
Everything is awesome.
Welcome to this week's edition of Everything is Awesome. I am your host, Kev, and this is the show where we sit down and talk to awesome people about awesome things. This week's guest, I'm very, very happy to have come back to the show. That's right. It's not often we have a return guest on the show, and this guy, we crossed paths through podcasting and the Pattern Family movement. Is Chris Revill from the podcast Let's Chat with Revill and Friends, a fellow Core Temp Arts podcaster on their network. And originally we set up this interview when I was in a space of, and I tweeted about it a whole bunch, where between things that happened with our live show and other things that were happening within the That's Entertainment podcast network, someone who I consider friends. There was a big kind of clash, and that like caused some turmoil mentally for me, and then we thought we had it settled, and then it happened again. Something came up, so we were setting up an interview to talk about depression, because it's something that Chris had experienced, and he was ready to tell his story a little bit more in detail, and I wanted to chat about my experiences with it, and but from the time that we set up this interview and we knew what we were going to talk about, when I was ready just to have a 100% show that was all about depression and be serious and whatnot, some things were on the upswing again, and one of the big things was the Philadelphia Eagles winning their first Super Bowl, and I've talked about it before, and it was a really good time for Philadelphians, and I was by the time we sat down and record, I was on an upswing. So we do chat about other things for the first probably 20 to 30 minutes of the show, and then we kick into talking about depression, my experiences with it, Chris's experiences with it, specifically what triggered it, and how he's been coping with it, and how he continues to find new ways to cope with it, and like my coping mechanisms and stuff like that, which aren't completely 100% healthy and whatnot. But I hope that this conversation proves to have something useful for you. If depression is a serious thing, and to let it go unchecked can lead down to very dark paths. And there's, I think, ways to avoid that. And number one is be open about it and talk about it. There's this, stigma with depression, especially with guys, that like it makes you weak and whatnot. And maybe I am weak, but I don't think you should be afraid of that. You should wear that on your sleeve. No one is perfect. No one is 100% cool all the time. No one, everyone, I think, has little bouts of depression and sadness and stuff. And it, it's something that should be talked about way more than it is, especially with males, because, it's just talking about it, not going. I have this weird thing where I can't actually, and I discuss it here, like I have a hard time finding someone professionally to sit down and talk about it. But like this, for me, like this is, I've always used art and being a creative to find as my ways to deal with depression. When I was a teenager, it was wrestling. I took it out in the ring and whatnot. And then now it's podcasting and writing and stuff, and all kinds of different creative freedoms that I have. So I think it's important for everyone to just know that about depression, is that, no one, I think, is safe from it. And it's something that you should talk about. The more you talk about it, I think the better off you are. So that's the bulk of this episode, and I'll be back on the other end to kind of wrap up. But for now, let's kick it to Kev and Chris of the past as they talk just amongst themselves as friends. So do you just have off like randomly during the week, or?
No, I'm working from home today. Well, kind of home. I don't know. We didn't have a meeting our meeting got canceled. That was the only thing I have to be there for. And then I have like a mobile station, and then it just ended up being one of those days where I'm able to. It's flexible, so I could take an hour out here and there. But today I just didn't have a whole lot going on, so I just took my lunch late.
So are you able to do you work from home most days,
No.
or is that just like?
Well, so I travel throughout the state in the course of the day. So
okay.
I do come home periodically, but I do have two offices I go to.
Okay.
Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah, that's what I like about my gig. Like, as much as I'm not in IT, I wouldn't switch from quite yet, and well, that's gonna be a big old bleep for people. I wouldn't switch from my division yet to go to IT because like the people are really nice here, and even like the executive director, she's really cool. My supervisors that I've had since I've been here, like they all. Like the being on time is very subjective as long as you get your work done and you make it up somehow. So like when my son moved to kindergarten, I asked, I was like, hey, is it all right if I start coming in like around 9:30? Because I have to drop my kid off around 8:45 and I'm not going to be able to get in until like 9:15 at the earliest. And they're like, yeah, whatever, just make it up. Like, you figure it out. So like if I take a long lunch here and there, or if I come in late.
Dude, it's insane how much schedule is important when you get older.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like
right.
before this is the first position I've ever worked in my life. I wish I didn't get this job till I was like 30, I think, or 29 or something. I was 30. I don't know. But where I worked 9 to 5 or like 8 to 4, like consistently the same hours every day.
Yeah.
And before that, I've done every shift hour, or change. I've done everything. So it's so important. I can never, ever go back to like nights and weekends.
Yeah. I want to say 2010. So 8 years ago was the first time I had a job that was a standard, day job with a set schedule. Before that, I was working for, do you guys have Wawas up in Rhode Island?
No, it's a Jersey thing. We had them in Connecticut for like a minute, but they weren't like your Wawas with the.
Yeah.
I'm thinking Quick Check. There was one by my grandparents' house when I was a kid.
Well, first of all, it's not a Jersey thing; it's a Pennsylvania thing. Jersey
you know why? I was confusing it with Quick Check.
Yeah, there's a Wawa, Pennsylvania, where it all started.
Yeah, we used to have them at my grandma's house, and then it got turned into something else. It's
Wawa
special that I remember.
Well, it's very special to us Philadelphia people.
Yeah, but it was like there's one in Connecticut. So I wonder if it had anything to do with the company that you guys of Wawa, or was it just the same name? Because that's not. And then it closed. Maybe they got sued. It was red, right? The red letters and Wawa.
Yeah.
I don't remember anything about it other than it was a convenience mart. The people in Philly love it.
Yeah, oh God, we love our hoagies. They their point of sale system and their fuel system is run off this company Radiant, which at the time was its own company. Now it's owned by NCR. Not important. I used to work for Radiant. I used to install point of sales across this great nation of ours. And so my work schedule, like I would be on the road from anywhere from 4 to like 17 days out of the month, or not out of the month, at a time. Come home for a weekend and then be at it again. And I mean, this is a job that only 20-year-old Kev could. Like, I started, my first day was when I was 21, and I did that for I guess I did that till 2009, really,
before the kids.
So I got laid off. Yeah. My first kid was born in 2012. So
I couldn't do that with kids.
No, and like I missed I kind of miss the idea of traveling for work, but only in the sense
every job is amazing once you don't work there anymore.
Yeah, but it's only in the sense of like I got to see places and I got to do things. It's so as much as I quote unquote miss it, I do not want to go back to it. Like it would be torture to leave the house for 4 days for work and not be able to see my family. So it's as much as I miss that job, like this job here that I have now it's so convenient. It's so great for my family and I. It was a good move to make, and like when there's downtime, like it offers me time I'm in my office still, but it offers me time to like steal away to work on whether it's writing or editing a podcast. Or I have 3 monitors. Well, I have 2 monitors on my laptop screen. So like one screen is dedicated to like, I'm going to listen to a podcast that I have to edit, or I'm going to listen to a podcast that I want to listen to.
If anyone's listening to this and they heard that 4-day away thing and you're like, oh, that sounds great from your partner, you should get out of that relationship. If you hear that and like, oh, I miss the person I'm with, then that means it's good. But if you're like, oh my God, 17 days away from them, maybe you should reevaluate your life.
But it's funny how some relationships actually work that way. Like I think this is, a good example of that. Hulk Hogan, when he,
you might want to think this, which wife?
Well, okay. So his first one, Linda, I don't know anything. I didn't even know he was married again. So,
oh yeah, he's still divorced, right?
I don't know. I don't know. I know his first wife that was his age. The one I know he was dating like his daughter's friend at one point, if not
who looked like. And then the mother was dating the son's friend who looked like him. It was
very weird.
That could be a whole episode.
But for like Hulk Hogan, for all the years that he was on the road and in the business and consistently on either WWF/WWE or WCW, like his structure was good. Like they were fine. They got along. And then he came home and was not working anymore. And like within, I think, a year of that, that's when their marriage fell apart.
I thought it was because his son killed someone too. The TV show. Yeah. I don't want to overanalyze them, but yeah, I feel like if you're going to be away for that kind of time, you got to have beach house money. Like it has to have a sacrifice. Totally. Like if me being away at the pay I make now is just torture. If I was making house money, which means I'd own a home and a beach house, you think it through. Because I know people who do have to travel for a boatload of time for work, and they have a lot more money than me.
Yeah, and I would be, it would be a different story if it was 6 figures or something like that. That was the traveling, and maybe I'd still be there if that was the case.
Yeah, I'm not at that level.
But, yeah, I'd much rather just work. I drive an hour to work every day, and it's nice and relaxing. And it's funny because I wanted to, and I think we'll talk a little bit about it today, but it was prior to this Sunday. I was like, and I still to a degree am like kind of dealing with my own little depression, but I because you had mentioned I guess when I did your show recently, I was like your second show back.
Yeah.
So you mentioned like you took some time aside to like figure your mind out and whatnot. And that's what I wanted. I wanted to get serious on this show to talk about that. Setting up, since like a week or two ago to do this interview, I was like all ready to be like, fuck life. But yeah, man. So, I mean, obviously, from seeing my tweets and whatnot, like for Philadelphia, it's a happy time right now.
Yeah, congrats. I live in New England and wanted your team to win for you only because I don't like Patriots fans either, but I also don't care. So
that helps too. And you're not, and like I'm like that with like basketball. I don't like, I'll always cheer on the Sixers, but I don't care about basketball. It's a very boring sport for me. Hockey I've gotten into in the last 10 to 15 years, but it's still a game that like I can't name one player on the Flyers, but I have a Flyers jersey and I will support that team. And then baseball, like I got back into a year or two before we won the World Series. So like, I think 2006, I got back into it. After baseball for me, I don't know why, because I was fucking 9 years old when we went on strike. But when MLB went on strike, I got so pissy about it that I stopped watching it.
Yeah, I used to be super into basketball, baseball, and I'm just not. Then I had like my anti-sports phase, and then as I got older, I'm like, oh, it's the same thing as just liking superhero movies. So extremism on all sides is wrong, and if you have fun and you like it, it's fucking awesome that you have that.
Yeah, well, and that's like, and I love there's this Will Wheaton video. He was at a con, and I think he's actually answered this question or given a similar answer to similar questions on more than one occasion. But there's this one video that I have bookmarked in my favorites on my browser that I like to watch from time to time, where a little not a little girl. It was somebody said like, "Hey man, like I have a little girl at home or a little boy at home, and what advice do you have to tell them about like when they're made fun of for being a nerd or for being a geek or something?" And I'm paraphrasing him here, but he basically said that everyone is a nerd. Everyone, all that means is you're passionate about something. So whether it's comic books or whether it's math or whether it's football, like everyone is passionate about something, and don't let don't let anyone take that from you. And it was very well worded, much better than what I gave now. But like, I turn to that video from time to time because it's like the first time I saw it was before I had kids, and I watched that and I was like, man, I want Will Wheaton to be my dad, because like it was just such an inspirational thing for him to say. I'll maybe in the show notes I'll try to put the link to the video in there so people can watch it. But for me, like I'm the abnormal quote unquote nerd. Like, I walk into every IT job and I'm like the one that's not necessarily I've lucked out where I'm usually partnered up, or I have a crew of people that are like me that aren't necessarily full blown IT nerds. Like we don't dress like it. We don't act like it. We are very into sports, and but I'm also very into all the nerd pop culture stuff too. So I walk all lines basically. But when it comes to sports, I'm a football guy, and I wouldn't even say a football nerd. Like I'm passionate about my Philadelphia Eagles, and maybe like 10 years ago when I was following fantasy football and playing a lot, I was way more into like the stats and stuff. But now I'm just like riding cloud nine about the Eagles winning the Super Bowl. It's 52 years since the Super Bowl has been around, and we finally won one.
Well, I grew up like as a Red Sox fan, so 52 years is nothing.
That's true.
But I mean, it's cool. I mean, besides the assholes who kind of ruin it for everyone, good for Philly.
Yeah.
I actually really love Philadelphia. I'm not even going to shit on it. I think it's a wonderful city.
Well, and it's funny, and like I get it. I understand that there's like there are assholes in the city that fucking like the. So this is the example I turned to. I watched a video of some of the shenanigans that went on after the Super Bowl, and like some of it's okay. Like I'm okay with a level of douchery after our team won the Super Bowl, because I don't expect the Patriots fans to do it because you've won 5. I would expect Cowboys fans to maybe do it because it's been a hot minute since they've won a championship. I think mid 90s was the last time they won something. So a fan base that's passionate about their team, I expect some sort of douchery if they win the big game. And like, there's this video. I'll give 2 examples from this video. A group of people are on top of the canopy of a hotel.
Oh, I saw that.
And it collapses. And like, okay, like here's why I'm okay with that. They're going to have someone got in trouble for that. Someone's going to pay for that. And at the end of the day, even if not, there's a business insurance that's going to cover that. And yeah, it sucks because in some way, it's going to screw the little guy somewhere down the road. But compared to flipping someone's car, that's what I got heated about. I was like, come on, guys. Like, this is why we have a bad rap. You're flipping a car. You literally flipped a car over. That's not yours. That's someone's car. Like, that could have been my car. I don't live in the city proper, so I'm lucky. But like, that could have been my car or someone I knew. Like, that's how someone has to get to work tomorrow, and you flip their car. And like, that's how I recognize that the city of Philadelphia, like, I know we have a bad rap. I think we get one that's worse than it actually is. But it's stuff like that. No, it is. I think it's way worse. As someone who's not necessarily in the city, but like I consider myself a Philadelphian, we have a bad rap. I think
sports teams wise, not otherwise. I think Philly is like a lot of cities now. No one who lives, less people from Philly live in Philly.
Yeah.
That's just a nationwide trend of all cities. I mean, didn't Philly also throw batteries at Santa?
But that was also like,
yeah, you don't let that one down. Not you personally.
I think you do, though. Like, that's the same thing as saying, if you were to say, let's take the Cowboys for an example, or even, well, not the Patriots because they are a modern day team with championships, but let's take the Cowboys for example. A team that's the same thing as like saying our team is better than your team because we've won 5 championships. But in the last 20 years before this 2017 Super Bowl here, Super Bowl 52, in the last 20 years, let's count how many rings our teams have had. 0 each. Like our teams are the same for the last 20 years. So I think, yeah, it is bad that in our history, yeah, we threw
That's a hockey, right? Hockey game?
No, I don't think it was hockey. I don't know if it was I don't think it was either football or Phillies. It was the Eagles or Phillies.
I wasn't alive for it. It's just one of those notoriously funny things.
And I get it, and it's something that I definitely respect, or like you can reference to and say like, man, that's fucked up that happened, but that doesn't represent current day Philadelphia culture. And you're right.
All those people doing those riots don't actually live in Philly. Like, there's plenty of people who travel to a sports game who don't live in the cities.
Exactly. And my point, like that, and I saw you commented on it today, is like I shared a news article about Patriots fans that like rioted and like
in Amherst too. It's not even near where they play.
So like it's and a lot of people like so here's a classic defense that Philadelphia fans have, and that's like, well, it's not just our town, everywhere has it, we just get the most publicity. And I think there is a degree to truth to that because I guess when something happens that is to an extreme, like the battery thing, and I think it's that specific incident, to be honest, that's usually the thing. And then you just and everything else, what's that called, like when confirmation bias, you only look for stuff that proves your point. Exactly. And it's that thing. Like, I want to say, and maybe the reports aren't accurate, but as of yesterday, the report was, out of everything that happened in the city of Philadelphia, the celebrations, the rioting or whatever, because we won, there were only 3 incidents that made arrests. That were bad enough that caused that. Whereas in that article I shared alone, 6 people, I think it was, got arrested. Yeah. So my thing is, I'll recognize the fact that Philadelphia, our fans do shitty things, and sometimes they do great things. I would say it heavies, from my point of view, hearing the news on a daily basis in Philadelphia, it usually weighs more towards positive than negative. But it happens everywhere. I don't care whether you say I'm lying or I'm just saying it because I'm from Philly. It happens everywhere.
It's like football, like international football. Yeah, it's true. Well, I mean, I think there's a type of person who goes to a game with an intent to riot.
Oh yeah, totally.
And I think the people, and like you hear this a lot, which is a very accurate statement, is it's not as much the people, but the response from law enforcement, like versus like, shut up, sorry, cats. When there's like if there's a Black Lives Matters protest, they are like, all right, let's look at that thing in fucking what's Virginia, when they had that, like the Klan that rally, they had the fucking National Guard out there. And then there's a sports game, and it's a majority of white people rioting, which is, I mean, it's just rioting, literally rioting. Look what happens. It's that's the problem I think most people have. It's like, oh, we're like, look at the LA riots or whatever. So it's so shitty because there was actual people looting during the Philly celebration / riot.
Yeah, and
I'm also not putting this on Philadelphia. This is a larger scale issue through the nation that happens everywhere. Whether if that happened in Boston or it happened in Philly or wherever, it would have been the same thing. It's the cops respond. Okay, high five. It's okay to be an asshole. Oh, this is politically motivated. You're going to jail.
But I would say that if the Pats won the Super Bowl, you probably wouldn't have much looting going on. But again,
what's actually interesting? I'm not sure if you're not from this part of the country. The Patriots don't play in Boston or even near Boston. I actually live closer to where they play than they do in Boston. So it's weird. They play in this really weird. It's called Foxborough. It's a suburban town, and there's just a stadium in the middle of nowhere. I don't know if that matters, but I think it's interesting because there's like nothing to. If the game's not physically there, there's nothing happening. Like, no one went to Foxborough to celebrate. You're like, all right, let's go get a Five Guys burger and go to a movie or whatever. But all right, well, I know you want to talk about something real before I digress your entire episode.
Well, and the last thing I want to say is that, like, I feel like if, like, the Patriots won, there would be a lot less chaos than there was in Philly. But that's because they've had championships for the last. Like,
oh, you're giving Boston way too much credit. They're fucking dicks.
But here's the thing, like, I'm going to go back to my example of the Dallas Cowboys. It's been a hot minute since they won a championship. I feel like that's a town that they would be so hyped that they finally, it's been 20 years that they won one. They would have won their 6-1, which would have tied them for the most ever championships in football. So, like, I feel like, you know, it happens everywhere. It's just the fact that, like, typically Philly gets the most national news for it.
Like, remember when the Red Sox won? I remember that.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. It's like that everywhere. It really is. It's just Philly happens to be the team right now that you're talking about because they won.
Exactly.
And good on them. Good on them.
And
they don't cheat.
And yeah, damn right we don't. And good on Bud Light for making their promise, keeping on their promise. I don't know how they're doing it, but they're giving up. They promised, I think in the, like, it was either the beginning of the season or like near halfway point. One of our players said something about, like, having a party on him for if they win the Super Bowl. And then Bud Light chimed in and said, beer's on us. We're going to give at the parade. We'll give beer away if you guys win the Super Bowl. And they're either having, like, stations along the parade route where you can just go up and get free Bud Light, or they're doing something with the bars along the parade route.
That's so cool.
So yeah, I think it's going to be, because the players are involved in the parade route, it's going to be a lot more organized with police, but you're going to see some drunkenness in this Philadelphia parade on Thursday.
Oh yeah. Oh my God. It's going to be a St. Patrick. It's comparable to St. Patrick's Day in Boston.
It's going to be, I think, blow the Murmurs parade out of the water. This Eagles parade. So anyway, so I did want to talk because, like, I discovered earlier this month, because I was like, and not discovered, I've always known that, like, mine's, like, so low key, my depression, that, like, I don't even feel like, I never feel the need to talk to somebody about it. Like, I kind of process, deal with it. And then usually I'm like a week of it and I'm out. And then I'm good for a couple months maybe, but, like, there was some it's all not related to this podcast, but related to, there was, like, the That's Entertainment podcast network that I run, which ironically this show is not part of. I run that, and things related to that, like, just really kind of, like, put me in a down spirit and kept me down for a week, like the entire month of January, pretty much. I was just like, oh, like, unless it had to involve my family, like my fiance and my kids, like, it was like, I don't care. I don't want to do anything. Like, I'm still catching up on posting episodes, which I thought I was going to try to overpower that depression and get episode 105 out in time for the anniversary of the show, and I didn't. It's still not out yet, and, like, part of that is I don't want to drop names of any organizations, but there was a pretty big organization,
NFL.
Yeah, fuck you, NFL. There was an organization that may or may not be the NFL that was supposed to be a pretty big presence and help promote the festival that we did, the one-day festival for Everything is Awesome's anniversary and raising money for Let's Have Cancer. And they did not. There was radio silence on their end. They did nothing to help promote it, and them promoting it could have made a huge difference in that show.
Sucks.
And it's like, to the point where, like, I showed up Sunday for the festival to run it, and I got shitty drunk because I was so, like, that's when I'm depressed, like super depressed, and I'm in a bar, it's bad news. So I got a little hammered, and, like, I don't remember my show at all. Like, I'm dreading going back to listening to it. I felt like, I just remember when I left that day, I left feeling like the festival was good. My guest spots I was a guest on 2 shows during the festival. Those shows were great. The shows that every show but my show performed well and overperformed and did what they were supposed to do, and my show was shitty. It felt bad. Like, I hated my performance. I hated what we brought to the table. I was not happy with it, and I've been told that I'm a little hard on on myself about it, but it was such a negative thing that, like, I'm still kind of dealing with mentally, because I haven't posted any like I finally edited an episode that I did with Craig from Take Two that I'm going to put up later today.
Craigie.
Yeah, he's a good dude. But yeah, like, it's and for me it's weird because, like, I don't feel the need to talk to anybody, even when it's, like, quote unquote this bad. Like, I know I don't feel like I need medication. I don't feel like it's that bad. Like, I know other people that are depressed and are on meds, and it really does help. And I love that there's something there for people that absolutely need it. And for me, I think I'm still, I guess, trying to figure out what it is, because I've tried sitting down and talking to people, and I like professionals. It doesn't do it for me.
Yeah.
So basically my whole thing, I was like, yeah, I'm depressed. I'm still trying to figure it out. I don't know what's up. I don't know how much detail you want to get into, but sure. you kind of discovered, was it something you dealt with prior to, for what I'll call the incident for now? Cause I don't know what you want to talk about.
Oh, no. No, never. Well, so my depression more was manifested through, post-traumatic stress disorder, they call it.
Yeah.
And, I mean, I think I told which I can go through the whole thing if you want, but it's been kind of a weird ride, because, like, I was threatened to get help, and then my company changed insurance. So I lost my therapist, lost my psychiatrist. And then when I've seen 2 new therapists, I didn't like either of them. And so I'm in this weird phase of, like, I was doing great, and now I have to pause everything. But I actually have a brand new psychiatrist appointment today, so I hope that goes well. And I'll see a new therapist at the end of the month, and then hopefully I like them. But yeah, anyway, so I don't know. I remember, like, seeing a psychiatrist and not telling them, and they're, like, prescribing. It's called God, so much I know. It's not Wellbutrin, but it's like the knockoff version of Wellbutrin, which is basically an anti-anxiety, anti-depressant. And I'm like, but I'm not depressed. And they kind of gave me that look where they wanted to laugh in my face because I didn't know I was depressed, which I guess you don't realize things are. So I guess that was how mine kind of came to be. And I guess it's weird. I think I noticed a lot of it is, like, through my podcast, isn't it, like, the hobby and thing I love the most. And, like, besides, the stuff that matters in life. And it just kind of stopped. And, like, if you look at my track record, like, I don't think I had missed I was putting out, like, 55 episodes a year. So, like, sometimes twice a week for the last, like, 3 years. I think last year I had not missed an episode in over a year and a half. And, and then I knew I was going to take a little break because I needed some time. And then coming back to it, just didn't want to. I stopped using social media, stopped doing all that stuff. And then I had to learn from a therapist, like, I couldn't even talk about it even when people were, like, reaching out to say nice things to relate to the trauma, because it would just put me, I just done for the day. Like, I couldn't even talk about it, which then leads to PTSD. So, should I start from the beginning so people actually know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, because this is interesting, because for me, like, I know I've kind of dealt with, before I saw someone professionally, I kind of always said, yeah, well, my depression comes from self-esteem. Like, I just have a self-esteem issues, and that's my form of depression. And I always dealt with, like, feeling sad through art. Like, so I since I was 15 years old, I wrestled, and that was my art at the time. I wrestled.
So you had a coping strategy.
Exactly, like that. And and I did that for like 10 years. Like, I didn't have to see anybody because I could just hit someone with a chair and it all felt better, or more so, like, I could, like, this is where the self-esteem thing comes into play. Like, I enjoyed taking bumps. I enjoyed, getting hit in the head. I enjoyed, getting beat up and whatnot. And I had that for so long that that's what I dealt with. And then it kind of, when I got injured and I stopped doing it, I started, gravitating towards podcasting, and that, up until really, like, I stopped doing it for a couple of years when my kid was born, my first one. And I just had family at that point and pop culture and a little bit of writing here and there. And I found other creative ways to kind of keep my head on straight. And there was a good couple of years where I didn't feel depressed. I didn't feel the self-esteem issue. I didn't hate myself. And then, I don't know. It's weird. It's
comes and goes, right?
Well, and I think it's like, I think what it is now in my as I near my mid 30s, it's that I haven't done some of the things that I've wanted to do, like film a movie. It's some of these creative things that I've really wanted to do for, the last 10 years or longer that I haven't gotten to. So I think it's that kind of stuff that I start letting like the podcast go. And then suddenly there's 5 episodes of the podcast that I'm like, shit, I have to edit and get these posted. Like, it's just, I don't want to fucking deal with it, but I have to. So like for me,
it's like overwhelming.
Yeah.
Fuck.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
Boyd, I'm like, fuck it, I'm just not going to do it.
Exactly. And it's a weird feeling. Like, I don't know what the actual classification is when it comes to the a professional saying what you are. But at one point I was professionally diagnosed with having self-esteem issues. And I'm sure it's manifested into other things since then. But again, like I kind of still like this, even though it's going to be a while before we post it. Like, this is what I love, like sitting around talking. So like this here helps big time. This is me being creative, sitting around talking. So it's weird for me to hear from you, like you had a specific incident that kind of set things in motion for you. So whatever you feel like you want or can get into, go ahead and give people some background of why you started seeing somebody.
Well, the long and short of it was basically a bunch of trauma happened within like a very short period of time, which I guess this was a separate one. But so my wife and I struggled with IVF, with his trying to have a baby. And so we did it. And that was about 3 years, which accumulated into finally her getting pregnant, which was fantastic. And then led to my wife had a high-risk pregnancy and then developed preeclampsia at like 34 weeks. And then made our daughter was born prematurely. And then the day of the pregnancy, which was a couple days leading up for all that to happen, was a whole another story within it. So it just doesn't really end. But then, so then that day my daughter ended up in the NICU, and then my wife ended up she had to get a C-section after everything. And then that day she had postpartum hemorrhaging, and they couldn't stop it. And she had to get 3 surgeries after the C-section all in that same day, and was literally on death's door, according to her exact doctor. Yeah, I've had it's like literally like a miracle that she's alive.
Wow.
And then my daughter was in the NICU after that. There's so much other shit that happened in this short period of time. But it's bad that I can't remember certain things anymore. But and then so she had 3 surgeries, and then things were going pretty good. And then my mother-in-law was coming up to help us out, and they were in the process of moving up here. She falls and breaks her arm on our stairs, which was the whole experience within itself. There's a lot of issues around that. And something else. Oh, then her gallbladder. She had emergency gallbladder surgery while she was on maternity leave. Then we got robbed on my birthday.
Holy crap! Yeah,
it sucked. I mean, nothing really valuable was taken, but it sucks. That was terrible. On my actual birthday, I think I was already getting help at that point. And then she had another surgery again in as most recently as of October, and it's now February. So she's had 6 surgeries in 6 months. I feel like some other stuff must have happened too. So it was just a lot of traumatic shit simultaneously. I didn't know I had PTSD. I thought things were going good. And then one of the signs, at least for me, was I was in tremendous physical pain one morning. I couldn't move my neck. So I thought it was just stiff. So I got like a professional massage and didn't really work. And then my wife, believe it or not, remembered an episode of West Wing. I don't know if you ever watched that, where with Josh Lyman, who's played by Bradley Cooper, they discovered he has PTSD. And then so I guess without really realizing it, I was like not talking about anything. I was having night terrors, flashbacks. Like I would just start like randomly crying all the time. Like could like be driving my car, doing anything in the world, and I would just like disassociate. And so like a flashback is like reliving a moment of your life, except the worst moment of your life, and like actually being there. It's not like the first time you had sex or something cool or going to Disney World. It's like, what thing do you ever want to not relive? And then all of a sudden you're like driving, you're like, what the fuck just happened? I was just in a hospital. So it was weird, but I wasn't like figuring it out. And then I finally saw a therapist, and it was really physically painful. Just, I don't know why. It was like I had a lot of tension leaving that day, and I did not like it at all. And then next morning, I felt like I lost 1,000 pounds, and I felt free. And then eventually was going to therapy, got into meds, and then my company changed insurance, and now I'm kind of back in that process. So, but yeah,
and that's interesting because, like I said, like I have gone, and maybe I just haven't found the right person, and I've only got like
it is actually like, because I work in that field too. It's like 70% of therapy is a connection.
Yeah.
If you don't like your therapist, it's just not going to work.
Yeah.
There's nothing your therapist can do. There's nothing you could do if you don't feel like a good connection. Like I found what I just don't like, and I really just need like a really warm, holistic-ish, like empathetic woman. That's just who I need to work with. I just saw this dude once, and God, he was so silent and dry, and it was very like more like he had like a couch like you could lie on, like a fucking stereotype. It's like, oh no, I can't do that. Yeah. Dr. Didi was just like one of the first things she says to me, she's like, I just want to say thank you for allowing me to go on this journey with you. It is really just truly my honor. And like one of the last conversations we had before our last session, she was like, I just want you to know that I promise you things are going to get better. And I just reacted better to that than I did to other things. So it's weird too, right? Like it's like get help, but no one ever gets help until maybe months after they need it.
Oh, absolutely. Like, I mean, and I guarantee you that it's something that like I could definitely benefit from.
You probably don't even need meds, to be honest. Like a lot of people, like there's like feeling down and like low grade depression, like people can work through, and then there's like diagnosable bipolar and levels of depression. So like, I don't know, maybe you do need meds. I don't know. Like, I can't diagnose, but like,
no, and I don't feel like I do.
Therapist is helpful.
Yeah, it's the level. Like I know because I've seen people who are depressed on and off meds, and I don't ever feel, or at least I don't see me act like a person who's off meds that needs it, and maybe at like the darkest hour I do. I know, like it doesn't feel like it's that bad. Like, because for me, it feels like whenever I get, save for when I get sad about like something that reminds me of my uncle or something, or like for instance, like, and I would say this wasn't necessarily sad tears, but like I got emotional and wept when the Eagles won.
Well, that's a good thing because
exactly. Well,
because you're feeling something. I guess that was part of the problem I was having too, is just like not letting anything in.
Exactly.
Negative or positive.
Exactly. So there's times where like something like that will happen where I'm thinking of my uncle, and I'm like, I'm so happy that
it's nice.
that happened, like that the Eagles won, and I'm sad that he's not here to actually witness it and whatnot. But I like, it's like, you know, I'm not a really religious guy. Like sometimes I have faith, sometimes I don't. I'm very on the fence about all that. But like there's times like this where like during the Super Bowl, like I literally was like, I know my uncle, and like every Eagle fan that's up there is like looking down and like they're helping guide this game somehow. And there's times where
it's sweet.
And there's times where I'm like, well, there is no God. But regardless, like then there's times where like, I don't know, I can't even think of it like I mean, and I guess that's kind of what makes it hard for me to talk to people, is like I can't ever articulate really like why I'm feeling sad or depressed, like why I don't want to work on a podcast.
It could be chemical.
Maybe, I don't know. And this is probably why I should go see someone. But it's like, to me, like as much as I love talking, like I don't want to sit around and talk about my feelings for an hour. And maybe that's the issue. I need to. I don't know. But
yeah, it's weird. I have to say it does kind of suck in the beginning, especially if you're going through some shit.
Yeah.
It does not make you feel good at first.
Yeah.
But, I mean, I've seen therapists before, and like when you get a good one, man, it's just the best. It really is. When you really just have a nice one, it is nice to have that person to talk to. But it's about whatever it is, even in, like if it's not about depression, like because I always go and gun blazing, like I don't want meds, and they're like, all right. If you find one who's like, well, a therapist can't give meds, so they're like, all right, if you don't want meds, let's see what else we can do. Like, okay. And then this particular instance, I kind of had a feeling that maybe I would. This was beyond my control because it was it was different than I've ever been through.
Mm-hmm. It's weird because I think like my problem is like when I am really sad about something, like by the time I find someone to go talk, and I've maybe a handful, like literally less than 5 times I've sat down with like a professional, and I've never sat down with someone that I actually like liked talking to, or it might have been because I was so negative about it. Like, oh, I don't feel like I need this. I'm just doing it to appease whatever.
Well, yeah, if you're not there for you, it's nothing's going to come out of it.
Yeah, and I think the issue for me is like, okay, well, I know that there's times that I'm depressed. I just right now I'm not. So what am I going to talk about? And
does it like feel like it's not ruining your life because you're able to cook? Because that's like I think the definition of like illness is like it's in the way of your life. Because I think a lot of people walk around with anxiety and depression, but it's not something that stops them from living their life.
Exactly, and
in a healthy manner.
Yeah, and I feel like honestly, mine, or at least the way it's felt for the last, we'll say, a couple months to a year or so, is like it typically the only thing it affects is usually my art. Like it doesn't feel like it affects my life personally. Every now and then, it might be like where I'm not cleaning up the house as much as I used to. So it's not.
It's fine to me.
So,
just cleaning.
I don't feel like it like mine. I feel like it's super low grade. That it's just like sometimes I just gotta like let it work itself. I don't know. It's weird because I don't know anything. Like I'm not trained in this at all. So like maybe I should see somebody. Maybe I should be on meds. I don't feel like I need any of that. I feel like I just and I think that's me being like I'm the same way about my health too. Like I don't ever feel like I need to go to the doctor. I feel like I'm healthy. I know I weighed myself recently. I'm the heaviest I've ever been at like 260. And that I know that that's not healthy. Like I know that I could be a lot healthier, but I'm not going to go to a doctor about anything. I know that there's probably some like whenever I go to the doctor and like they say it's that time of the year. We need to take your blood work for your annual checkup. I'm like, great. They're going to find something. Or like if there's something actually wrong with me, I'm like, I'm not going to go. Like when I'm sick and I'm sick for a week, you know, people will be like, you should go to the doctor. I'm like, I'll be fine. And it'll be like another week and a half before I actually go. And I find out that like, oh yeah, you have strep, or, oh yeah, you have this thing that like could have been gone within a week if you just came here and got meds.
So you have like medical and mental health avoidance.
Yeah. I think that's what it is.
I'm a classic avoider as well. And procrastinating, not doing things is what I do best. Yeah. It took me months to get my blood work done for my doctor.
And I feel like my issue with like going to the doctor and not necessarily, I feel if I'm sick, like I'm not like I go to the doctor at least once a year because I went one time because I felt like I was sick. Like I felt like I had strep. I was like, all right, I'm not dealing with this. I'm going to go and get my strep taken care of. And they're like, you don't have strep. Like, you know, we'll do a strep test, but it looks like you just have really bad allergies. What do you take? And I was like, when I take this and that, and it never like when I feel like it's allergies, it never feels like it works. They're like, we have this like magic shot, basically, is what I call it.
Which they don't work.
No, it does. Like they give me a shot once a year. And my allergies I don't have allergies. Like it's amazing.
I want that. Well, do you get your physical at least?
Well, and that's when it happens. Like I go and they well, I don't know. Like I don't even really get a traditional. The last time I had. What I think of a traditional physical is something that you do when you're in school and like and they like touch your bits and stuff to make sure you don't have a hernia or whatever.
Or cancer.
Yeah. So I haven't had one of those. I can't tell. Probably when I was in 12th grade was the last time I had one.
Well, that's on your doctor at that point. They sound shitty.
I don't know. I don't know if it's because like I have to. The only like. When I go and they say, oh, it's time to do your annual stuff, it's usually peeing in a cup and getting blood work done. And I think like
that's a physical essentially.
Yeah. Like they get my height and my weight. And so they give me like a low, what I consider low grade physical, you know, like it's.
Yeah, that's pretty, I think that's what my last one was. And then, you know, when you get to a certain age, you have to start getting the old finger up the butt.
Yeah, well, that's my thing. Like, so when I have certain issues, so that's when I get my physical done is once a year, and that's all I got.
Well, if you ever start to feel worried about any medical stuff, just talk to any woman who has kids and let them tell you how you're a bitch.
Yeah.
Not you personally, but
No.
any woman out there who's had a child will just complain about us being bitchy men.
Yeah.
Because they are strongest motherfuckers
Oh,
on
yeah.
planet Earth.
100%.
Holy shit. My wife had, I'm not even kidding, she had 4 surgeries in one day, nearly died, 3 things of blood. We were at 3 different hospitals, and was literally like took a shower by herself the next day.
That's insane. That's insane.
We had our entire high risk medical team coming in, amazed that she was up and talking. And like I was naive. I'm like, wow, everyone's so nice. That's so cool. All these people are coming to see us. Like I talk about this, and I look back. I'm like, oh, they were like coming in because it was miraculous that you're not dead.
Yeah.
But I mean, I'm not telling. But I'm with you. I'm a baby.
Yeah,
I cut my finger on the microwave and thought I needed stitches the other day. I was like, oh my god, I'm gonna die. Women are. That's just a shout out to you, ladies out there. You are tougher than us.
And there's like, I have this one thing that isn't consistent, but it happens every now and then, and I'm like, I should probably get this checked out, but like, what if it's cancer? And like,
God, everyone does that. I know. Do you think that's also like a product of what nationality are you?
I am Irish.
Wow, you are just living the stereotype, my friend. But I mean, honestly, that cultural stuff really has a long-term effect on people, like in generation and generation. You're not wrong. It's so true.
Well, and like
I grew up a sick kid, so I always go to the doctor. I don't have any of that because I grew up sick. So yeah, dude, you're not kidding. I don't know. I've gone through years where I didn't go to the cardiologist to get my heart condition checked out like I was supposed to, just because I was like, well, I don't want to pay for this.
Yeah. Well, and that's part of it too.
That's a real American thing. Yeah, I mean that is a huge piece because like I've gone to the doctor and gotten thousands of dollars of bills that I can't afford.
And I would say like that's definitely with the whole mental thing and seeking someone to talk to. Like that's, I would say like I at least 50% of the reason why I don't want to go is like I don't feel like even if my insurance covers 90% of it, I just don't want to pay to go talk to somebody. But like
that's a huge. When you don't want to do something, you'll put a million roadblocks in the way.
Yeah,
myself included. Remember that part I told you I couldn't move my neck because I had PTSD but didn't realize it? Yeah.
But yeah, the one thing that I'm always like that I'm like, maybe I should like talk to my doctor about this, and like the reason I don't is I'm afraid like this one of the symptoms that it is like, well, it could be this kind of cancer, and it's fucked up. Like I'm saying that I don't want it to be cancer, and like I know like all I need to do is go to the doctor and let them tell me that it's not cancer, or if it is, like I'm catching it early enough to where I'm not going to die. And I'm saying this like recently losing someone to cancer. I'm like,
that's what I was going to say. Do you think that ties into losing your uncle to cancer? Like,
no, because it's literally been like, no, because it's
because you're Irish.
I think it's just because I have a fear of death, and that I've had that since I was a teenager. Like since I understood what the concept of death is. Like I don't know if you've ever heard like Kevin Smith talk about how like he does it like he wants to be able to upload his consciousness into like a computer so that he can just live on forever. That's like kind of my deal. Is like I don't, as sad as it would be to watch everyone I know and love die, like at the end of the day, like I want to live forever. Like I don't want to, and I don't know what it is. Like, is it because like I have this like weird feeling with God where like I don't know, like there's days I believe, there's days that I don't. That probably ties into my fear of death. But my fear of death, which I've had since literally probably before. There was one family member I had that I was close with that died before I probably had this fear of death. And then I developed it whatever point you really kind of really grasp that, like maybe preteens or whatever. And that is what fuels me not going to the doctor to find out if this thing I have is just the non-fatal disease, not even a disease, the non-fatal thing, or the thing that could kill you. And just kind of being blind to it to me makes a lot more sense.
Well, have you ever heard Pete Holmes has this hilarious joke? He's like, when you're a kid, the ice cream falls off the cone and then you realize you're going to die one day. He says it's way funnier, but he's like, the ice cream falls off the cone and all of a sudden you're like, oh my God, existence ends.
Yeah.
Like, dude, it's so true. Yeah, I don't know the answer, man. Go to the doctor, maybe? I don't know. As I tell you that, maybe I should go to my doctor. I don't know.
One and it's funny because I'm starting to there's this weird disease that affects one in not a lot lot of people.
Oh, you definitely have it.
And no, well, so and it's hereditary. So, my dad's sister, my aunt, she they found out she went for something and they're and it's almost untraceable. This thing is so untraceable that we don't know how they found it, but they're oh, you have this thing and your kids need to get checked because you have this thing and there's a chance that they might have it.
What disease?
But if
me asking,
I have no idea. It's something that's
cancer?
in your neck no, it's not cancer. It's something that's in your. I just don't know the name of it because I'm way ignorant to it, and not ignorant in the sense that I didn't pay close enough attention to my dad when he was telling me about it. But it's this thing.
Oh, there's so much stuff. You're whoa.
Yeah, and it's something in your neck that I think can screw with your heart, something like that. And again, maybe I'll find out about it and post it in the show notes. But so if she had it, that means that it came from her mom and dad, which means that there's a chance my dad has it. So and
did he get tested?
He's going to he still hasn't because he's like me. So that's
or you're like him,
or I'm like him, but.
Yeah.
He needs he wants to. It's just for him. I think it's more so I'll get to it when I get to it. And he has a bad heart, so he knows he needs to get to it. And but I told him I was listen, I'm not gonna get tested unless I absolutely have to. So when you go to your doctor and you if you don't have it, say okay, so I don't have it, but my sister did. Should my son go get checked? And then should his kids go get checked? Because unless it's spelled out for me, I'm not going to go get it checked. I need to know. I need a doctor to tell me, yeah, we should check for this.
Yeah. The worst thing about our medical, you wouldn't even be able, a doctor would have to choose to test it on you because you don't even get to be blah, blah, blah. Yeah, I bet they wouldn't even test you unless your dad has it, to be honest.
Yeah, and that's my
I don't think you could just walk into a doctor and be test me for this, doc. They'd be we need a reason.
Well, my aunt's doctor gave her, here's a thing to give to your family members. And so my guess is, if the doctor tested my dad, whether he was positive or negative for it, if my dad said, hey, should my kid get checked out, regardless of what the outcome is, and the doctor said, yeah, they would give him a note to give to me to get checked out.
Yeah, because then you have, I know.
But it's such a easy fix too. I don't even I think it's an outpatient procedure that they do to cure you. It's totally curable too. It's just a thing. It's a killer. It's a silent killer because no one it's not no one ever thinks to look at that thing to make sure you have it or not.
Yeah. Well, you just have catastrophe thinking.
Yeah. So,
somebody needs some therapy. I had seen one a few years ago because of that. I had a lot of friends and family members die in a very short period of time in a bunch of years. And then the more recent of that, when I was how old was I? 24 or something like that. I had two friends, one who died of cancer and then one who committed suicide with a month of each other and a bunch of other stuff. And then, so I was, for a long time, I was always had that and I also get from my mom that the other shoe's going to drop feeling.
Yeah.
And I finally saw a therapist about that. And she's I had to work through that. My wife used to say she thought I was definitely death obsessed. I would watch 6 Feet Under a lot and shit like that, way into that stuff. I also think you said something interesting because I also find there's nothing harder than being an atheist while having an existential crisis.
Yeah,
because it's so much harder. Because I'm the same way. I'm an atheist, and it makes it so much harder.
Yeah.
To deal with stuff when because we're afraid of death because you're dead, you die. It's not I'll die, but you have this silver lining, but I'll be in heaven with my family. Yeah. I'll be I'm done. It will be the end of The Sopranos. It just all goes black.
Yeah, it will go black, and that's I think that's my fear of death. It's that it goes black. That I don't get to experience life anymore because
you don't. Yeah, I mean that's what we think with the evidence based. The evidence provided to us from the knowledge we do know. And we'll never know. And I guess that's also scary. So that's I don't have an answer. It fucking sucks.
this is such a weird note to say we got to end on, but my laptop came up saying low battery, so I got like 2 minutes to end the show.
Awesome. Well, let's do this again.
Yeah, totally. I'm actually glad that it wasn't a full hour of serious talk about depression.
I would have quit.
Yeah, exactly. I'm glad that it was jovial, and I'm glad that I got to get a little bit more of your story about what happened, and I got to talk about why I'm such a lazy asshole with posting this podcast. There is something behind. There's something in my head not letting me do it. I just don't know what yet. So before we officially,
it will happen.
Yeah, well, I'll figure it out one day. Before I officially let you go and let my computer die, get your plugs out so people know where to find you.
At Let's Chat Podcast on all the things. Let's Chat Podcast on the Core Temp Arts Network. My most recent episode had Rahul Kohli. You might know him from Supergirl or iZombie.
Yeah, that was super cool.
Fucking, I can't explain how it happened. It was the biggest episode I've ever done. Coolest dude in the world.
Yeah, and congrats on that. I don't know if I actually said congrats to you.
Thanks. Yeah, it was the easiest thing I've ever done to get set up. It was set up in under 24 hours.
That's amazing.
Right time.
Yeah.
I asked him at the exact right time, and it just happened to work out. And for some reason, he talked to me for an hour and a half and opened up about all the shit. And I was like, okay.
That's incredible. Like, I'm so happy for you that you got that. Like, what a way to kind of come back. Like, I saw like a day or two before that, you posted your 2018 goal for podcasting, and you literally did it.
That's literally how. And then I'm also having one of the writers coming on. Whenever this comes out, one of the writers from iZombie will be on at the end of February as well, right before the show comes back. Same. And watch that show, guys. It's really good.
I need to catch up on it. I watched the first season. I just
season 2 ends with an actual zombie movie. I'll just say that.
I need to just hop on Netflix and binge watch it one day, and I will. I love the show. I love the first season. It was hard to get back, not hard to get back into because of the show. Just
there's 400 scripted television shows that come out a year. What
exactly.
Do you want from us?
Well, that's what I started following the Supergirl writers, and it's a shame that I don't know more of. A big thank you to Chris from Let's Chat with Revill and Friends. And big congrats to him. He's been getting some great guests on his show. He's been getting some cast members and writers from iZombie. That was a 2018 goal from him that he accomplished within like 2 or 3 weeks or something like that. So it was just really cool to see that Chris is, he's come back to podcasting. And he's come back in a big bad way. It's definitely a lot more sparse, being a new dad and all. I understand. But go listen to his show. It's on the Core Temp Arts Podcast Network. It's also on iTunes and Apple Podcasts, wherever Google Play, everywhere you can get podcasts, it's there. And I do want to apologize. We're going to have Chris on again at some point. A, because I just enjoyed talking to him, but B, we were running up against my laptop. I forgot to charge it. I was recording out in my car, and we were running up against the battery dying, and I was trying to wrap things up. But the battery died before I could wrap things up properly. So thanks for Chris for dealing with the way we had it record, and for just being on the show and for being a friend. I'm not a big person on Follow Friday. I used to be, and I try to. It's something I always say, I'm going to do Follow Friday this week, but I always forget about it. Chris is consistent about that, and he always tags me, if not me and my show. So big thanks to Chris for everything he does to help support Everything Is Awesome and me as a creative. And make sure you check out Let's Chat with Revill and Friends, and follow him on Twitter at Let's Chat Podcast. I believe that's the current one. Everything will be in the show notes, so just follow him along, and this is, even if you're not listening on Friday, follow Friday Chris on Twitter. He's a good dude, and he's doing great things in the world of podcasting. He's a smart cat. I just enjoy him with all my heart. Anyway, thanks for listening. You could have spent your time with anybody, anywhere for this last hour or so, but you put us in your ear holes, and I thank you for that. Time is valuable. That's our number one currency in this world is time. and we all should use it wisely. And I believe that listening to me yap on with friends for an hour is a wise thing to do. And if you're still listening to this, you obviously agree. So thank you so much. We hopefully by the time you're listening to this, we are pretty much up to date with our back catalog of interviews, and we're going to be sitting down and interviewing more people and expanding upon the That's Entertainment Podcast Network. Hopefully our Patreon is up and running at this point to be properly used. And, you have yourselves a fine summer. I guess it's spring, but man, as I'm recording this outro here, it's hot. It's like 80 degrees, so it feels like summer to me. So, enjoy it, and hopefully you're enjoying it with us along for the ride. I hope to have some announcements about more live shows in the next week or two here. I don't think by the time you're listening to this, it's probably official that I don't think we got invited to do the Great Philadelphia Comic-Con. There's always next year, but we're trying to do some things with other cons that are coming to the area. Trying to set something up for a new venue that I found down in South Street. And there's some other things in motion. And, of course, the Philadelphia Podcast Festival is in June this year. We will definitely be there. I haven't gotten the schedule yet, but I know that not only will we be there, I'll probably be running things that I would have to imagine Tattooed Mom for the weekend. So thanks for listening again. You can find us on Real Awesome Pod on Twitter.com and on Facebook.com, or at Awesome Podcast on Instagram. You can find me on Twitter at ThatNerdyCav. That's where I do most of my tweeting, and where I'll communicate with you one-on-one if you want to talk about anything in the world. I'm willing to talk about it 100%. And for Everything is Awesome, I'm Kev, and you can find us on awesomepodcast.com and Core Temp Arts Podcast Network at coretemparts.com. We've been awesome!
Thank you for listening to the Core Temp Arts Podcast Network. To listen to more Core Temp Arts shows, visit coretemparts.com.